Good morning, kindergartners. Today we're going to work on Mission 3, Lesson 1, and we're going to start looking at measurement in this mission. Today our objective is to compare lengths using taller than and shorter than with even and odd and uneven endpoints. So in just a second, we're going to look at two buildings. With someone at your house, I want you to look at these photos of the building on the next slide and talk about some ways they are the same and how are they different. So I'm going to show you those pictures right now. Remember, we're looking at how they're the same and how they're different. So here's your two buildings. I want you to take just a second with someone at your house and talk about how these two buildings are the same and how they're different. So some of the things that you might have noticed that are the same, when I was looking at these buildings, I thought about myself standing in front of them, and I noticed that they are both taller than I am. This particular building is almost the same height as these trees right here. This building right here is way taller than any trees. When thinking about it, this building appears to be shorter than this building. So if we were looking at this in terms of taller than or shorter than, we could say the building over here is taller than the United States Post Office building over here. Or we could say the building over here is shorter than the building over here. So when we compare and say it's bigger, let's think about what we mean by that. Bigger can have so many meanings. So here in my office, I have a book and I have a ribbon. So I'm going to show you, keep talking about this book and this ribbon, but I wanted you to have some reference. So here's the book, here's the ribbon. It's much like one that maybe a little girl would wear in their hair. Here's my book, like one that you would read, except for this one's for adults. So let's go back to our slide here. And it says, do we mean that it's heavier, like this book is heavier than this ribbon? If I'm picking these two objects up, think about that in terms of it's bigger. Do we mean it's heavier? Look at the book, look at the ribbon. Which one do you think is heavier? Obviously, the book is heavier. When we compare and say it's bigger, let's think about what we mean again. Do we mean it's longer, like the ribbon is longer than this book? Look at this ribbon right here. If we were talking about how big something is, and we were talking about how long it was, this ribbon would be longer than the book. If we think back to the previous slide, if we were talking about which one's bigger, if we were talking about heavier, the book would be heavier than the ribbon. Very good. But if we were talking about bigger as in length, then the ribbon would be bigger than the book. Do we mean it takes up more space? Like this book over here does take up more space than the ribbon when it's all squished together. So when we say something's bigger, it could have a lot of different meanings. Do we mean to compare the number of things, like the number of books or the number of ribbons? Like right here, we have one book and one ribbon. So we would say those are equal in terms of how many, not how heavy, not how long, but the term bigger can mean so many different things. Today, let's compare by thinking about how much longer or shorter one thing is than the other. So back to my book and my ribbon. My ribbon is bigger, is greater than my book because it's longer. So today in terms when we think of bigger, we want to look at how much longer or shorter an object is.